Because of the big cliffhanger at the end of Poppy Playtime Chapter 5, people are already excited about the next game, Chapter 6. And we may have just gotten our first couple teasers on Chapter 6, some of them being said by devs and some of them being in Chapter 5. And so in this video, I'm going to be going over everything that we know about Chapter 6 so far, along with some potential new teasers for the game. So first, let's start off with new characters that could be in Chapter 6. At one point in Chapter 5, after we meet Chum and Giblet, at one point we're hiding in Chum Chompkin's stomach, and while we're hiding, the prototype comes up to Chum and talks to him, and one of the things he says is this.
My hunters
shall pursue
1170. But you,
My hunters shall pursue 1170. So if you don't know, 1170 is Huggy Wuggy, and we've obviously heard of him before, but we've never heard of these hunter characters that the prototype talks about, and we never hear about them again in Chapter 5 or ever learn who they are. And so I think in Chapter 6, it's guaranteed that we're going to see these hunters. And so these could be like the smiling and nightmare critters, like small plushies that hunt for him, or it could be bigger or more dangerous experiments that we have to fight in Chapter 6. And the next character we might have to fight in Chapter 6 is, believe it or not, Lily's hair. So Lily Lovebraids herself is 100% dead. I'm pretty sure we all know that just based off how she died in Chapter 5, with her falling from really high up and then a giant metal cloud crushing her. So Lily is dead, but her hair might not be. After we kill Lily, we walk into a new room and find a cardboard cutout of Lily, which says this.
Did you know your hair keeps growing even after you die?
And something we learn about Lily's hair in Chapter 5 is that it's pretty much its own separate experiment, with each separate strand of hair being able to be perfectly controlled by Lily, and so each hair is like its own limb. Then is it possible that in Chapter 6, her hair could get a mind of its own and try to kill us? Or the prototype tries to repair her because she is his experiment after all. Maybe he won't save all of Lily, maybe just her hair because he knows how important her hair is. And we can see that her entire body gets crushed, but her hair stays perfectly fine, with some of it even going on top of the metal cloud that fell on her. I've seen a couple other people have similar theories to this. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree. But there is a lot of characters that we know are 100% going to be in Chapter 6. Those characters being us, the player, Giblet, Chum Chompkins, maybe, the prototype, Poppy, and Harley Sawyer. And now if I'm going to be honest here and just give my own thoughts on what I think they should do for Chapter 6, I don't think they should introduce any new characters to this game. I know they're going to have to because that's one of their main ways to market their games. But if Chapter 6 actually is the final chapter like most people think it will be, then there's no reason to add a bunch of new characters, and it wouldn't really even make sense. I mean, we've explored like almost this entire factory, and we never got a reason in Chapter 5 as to why Giblet and his cardboard cutouts are so far down in the factory, because if he's supposed to be a toy for children, why is he in the labs? Where pretty much everyone, especially children, are not allowed in. So now if we go even further in the factory and find new characters, that just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And speaking of going further in the factory, let's talk about some places that we'll be in for Chapter 6. So obviously we're going to start Chapter 6 in the same room where we ended 5, in IT where we bring the doctor back to life. And then after that first scene in Chapter 6, I think it's very likely that we'll go back to the labs, either to places in the labs that we already explored in Chapter 5 or new areas in the labs that we never saw. And now another area that we could go to in Chapter 6 is, surprisingly enough, a city. After Chapter 5 came out, some people went into the Chapter 5 game files, and for whatever reason, found an entire city under the Playtime Co. factory. We still have no idea why this is here or what it's supposed to mean, but it for sure has something to do with Chapter 6, because something similar happened with Chapter 4, where people went into the Chapter 4 game files and found a jester arm, us having no answer for it for over a year until Chapter 5 came out and we found out that the prototype was a jester. And we don't know if they put this jester arm here on purpose or on accident. I would say on purpose because they would have removed it if it was on accident. And now in Chapter 6, an entire 3D modeled city seems like something way too big to leave it on accident. This could have something to do with the prototype's plan, and maybe he was building an entire city under the Playtime Co. factory. It could have something to do with the Playtime Co. theme park poster that we saw in Chapter 3. Maybe this is the city where the theme park is and we're going to get flashbacks of it in Chapter 6. But this is all just me guessing. Let me know what you guys think the city is here for. And now moving on to a different topic about Chapter 6, and that topic is, what is the release date for this game? Now we don't have a lot to go off of for this, but we can definitely make a couple guesses based off Mob's pattern for releasing games. So Chapter 3 of Poppy Playtime came out on January 30th, 2024. Chapter 4 of Poppy Playtime came out on January 30th, 2025. And I think the original plan for Chapter 5 was also to drop it on January 30th, but there was some major backlash for Chapter 4 because of all the bugs it had, so Mob Entertainment pushed it back a couple weeks and dropped it on February 18th. And a lot of people have assumed that Mob took these extra 18 days to make sure that there were no bugs in the game. And I would say that they did a pretty good job because I didn't run into one single bug when I was playing Chapter 5. But now, what does this all mean for Chapter 6's release date? Well, I think we can definitely expect it sometime between January and March of 2027. Ever since Chapter 3, Poppy Playtime games have come out yearly, either always being in January or February, and I'm honestly hoping that Chapter 6 can come out even faster than Chapter 5 did. And now this might sound like I'm rushing Mob Entertainment to make Chapter 6, but that's really not what it is at all. My main point in all this is to say that Chapter 6 does not need to be longer than Chapter 5. Chapter 5 just seemed a little too long for me, and a lot of Chapter 5 was just puzzles, so if we just took a lot of those puzzles out, the game could have been an hour or two shorter and could have been just as good. So I honestly wouldn't be mad if Chapter 6 was shorter than Chapter 5 or even shorter than Chapter 4, if it means that it can come out even faster than Chapter 5 did. But that's what I want, and most likely not what Mob Entertainment is going to do. It seems like they want the Poppy Playtime games to get longer as they go on, so Chapter 6 will probably be longer than Chapter 5 was too. So if I had to guess an exact release date for Chapter 6, I would say February 25th, 2027. If not on that day, then definitely in the surrounding weeks. There is a slight chance that they delay Chapter 6 a little bit, maybe pushing it back to summer of 2027. And Zach Bellinger, the CEO of Mob Entertainment, was asked how he felt about the reception towards Chapter 5 after it dropped. And referring to the Steam rating, he said 85% in English is pretty good. Seth's goal was very positive. I, however, will not rest until we reach overwhelmingly positive. If you don't know what that means, overwhelmingly positive is the highest rating a game could get on Steam. And so based off this message, it seems like that they're going to try to make Chapter 6 as good as possible and try to get way less fan backlash than they did for Chapter 4 and 5. So right there is a reason that it could be delayed till summer of 2027. But the Mob team is always growing and they're always trying to hire new people. So maybe if they just get more people on the team, Chapter 6 can come out in January or February. And comment below your predictions for the Chapter 6 release date, and then we'll come back when Chapter 6 comes out and see if you were right. Something else that Zach said that tells us a little bit about Chapter 6 is pushing interactive and psychological horror is my #1 priority for the future of the franchise. So this tells us that Chapter 6 is probably going to be a more scary game than Chapter 5 was. And if I'm being honest, none of these games have been truly scary yet except maybe Chapter 3. Obviously jump scares can scare you, but in Poppy Playtime they're not really jump scares, because you're getting chased by a monster and then you can see it coming closer to you, and then by the time it reaches you, the jump scare happens. So you're kind of expecting it, so it's not really scary at all. So hopefully Chapter 6 is going to be a much scarier game than the rest of them, and it seems like Mob is going to make that happen based off this message from Zach. And now I'm going to talk about a different question that was answered in the Poppy Playtime Discord server by one of the devs that could reveal a pretty big secret that was supposed to be saved for Chapter 6. But somebody said, Amber, the Wuggies, referring to Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy, the Wuggies are very resistant. Do you think they're fully dead, or do they have a chance to survive? And Amber said, I can't answer that. And I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that this message was deleted after too. I went looking through all messages from Amber and I couldn't find it, but somebody still screenshotted it, and here we have it today. And so this might actually reveal that Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy are still alive and are going to return in Chapter 6. Either that, or they could be revived by someone in Chapter 6. Not the prototype, because he's the one who tried to kill them in the first place. And so I think the character that's going to try to revive Huggy and Kissy in Chapter 6 is Chum Chompkins. The first ever teaser photo we got of Chum Chompkins was this, of him hugging Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy. And we never got an answer as to why he was hugging these two characters specifically. And so I think it's possible that this was a hint that he's going to revive them using the Poppy Gel in Chapter 6. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.